And that then reflects back on how I deal with encountering different movement teachers. So the most important thing is, can you ask questions? So if you're practicing with somebody, learning from someone, and you can't ask questions, or there's stuff that when you ask you won't get an answer to, that is a big telltale to leave. And or will all the questions be answered unambiguously? So if there is no ambiguity allowed in the system that is being taught, something's off too. So basically, avoid gurus. Avoid gurus. Big thing. So for example, for a time, I was doing this yoga style. That was a new thing. Bowspring yoga. I think it's still pretty fringe, I hope. So this guy, and I won't drop names now, but you can research that if you want. So he comes in and he says like, well, in the way that we've been doing yoga for decades now is tucking the tailbone and like straightening the lower back. And then, but the spine is like shaped in the lordosis. Then, so the neutral spine, the better term for it is neutral spine, is paramount. And the neutral spine also allows for some amortizing of compressive forces.
Absorption.
So yes, so we should always strive to perform any sort of pose or movement in neutral spine. It is key. Try to not tilt your pelvis backwards. Never. It's like big new thing. Worked very well for me after my disc herniation, because it put me in a protective state and taught me how to move better in this protective position of my lumbar spine. So it was a very good tool at that time. I was fascinated. I was like, I totally bought into that. But like, then also for doing Feldenkrais and all that, I was realizing, well, even if the spine is shaped originally in that way, and that is like a useful position for all kinds of things, it has the ability to move the other way too. So maybe it was wrong to always put it into the other position, into a straight lower back. Always keeping it in a lordosis is not the answer to whatever question you might have had due to the other problem. So I was then also doing like animal flow. I was teaching animal flow, and I was like realizing you can't just do any movement like squatting on the ground. If you want to squat comfortably, like low squatting, not weight squatting, low squatting on the ground, you can't keep like this. It's ridiculous. It's like, no way. And also I was doing FRC. So FRC talks a lot about joint health. So if your lower back joints, if this joint, your lumbar joints, they never flex, you're creating stagnation in those tissues. So all of this I was learning from other sources, and then I went and then on a big workshop, because there was like, we're open for questions, and I was like, well, aren't you creating a new template to counter the old bad template that you say is bad, but isn't creating a template a problem in its own right? Isn't that the actual problem? Creating a template and saying this is good, this is the only good thing you ever have, like don't leave this best position of what. Yeah. And so I got told off. I was like, no, you haven't understood it yet, you haven't practiced it well enough, you need to keep going. I was like, definitely not, never coming back here. And that was a great experience. I wouldn't want to miss it, but it's something I can tell people and hope that they will learn from it, and that they will recognize when they encounter this early.
Well, I think a lot of people would ask a question like that and get told off and maybe think, oh, I really, that was a really dumb question I just asked. Like, not everyone would necessarily confront or decide that's the last time I'm coming, right? So I appreciate what you said earlier about working with a patient who maybe, the place to start is not some exploratory fighting monkey kind of situation. And you talk about using your authority because you have, you're the expert in this case and they came to you. But you're doing that to create safety, and yet at the same time, you want to relinquish the authority and give them a sense of autonomy as quickly as possible. But it sounds like, you through your own experience had to develop that. And then I would think that this is, again, a kind of an advanced stage, not so much in even necessarily the understanding of the joints that you were talking about, but the willingness to question some kind of authority who's teaching you in your movement. And I think it's actually crucial. I mean, Feldenkrais, a lot of his genius was that he just questioned things, and he did things in a new way. And in fact, Feldenkrais practice, and again, we keep pairing them together, and I don't know if maybe we're overdoing it, but I think also in fighting monkey practice, the question is very important often. But it's true. There are certain stages or certain situations where probably what we need is someone to help us find the answer in a very direct way. And other points in time, it's actually helpful to say, okay, well, if I don't give you the answer, how might you find it yourself?
Well, I have a very good bias because I've always questioned authority, and that is something I would wish for more people to have in general.